"I want a wife and you deserve strong sons," the giant cowboy declared to the lonely teacher. The biting Montana wind, a constant companion in 1887, swirled dust devils across Deadwood Ridge, a settlement clinging precariously to the vast, untamed expanse of Montana territory. Within this raw, unforgiving landscape, where survival was a daily testament to sheer grit, lived Claire Holloway. At 42, she was a woman adrift, sent to this remote outpost as a teacher, a role that felt less like a calling and more like a quiet exile. The dust of the trail still seemed to cling to her, a metaphor for the years of unspoken disappointments that had settled upon her spirit. The townsfolk, a hardy but insular community, offered hushed whispers and pitying glances, their judgments sharp and unyielding. "She's past her prime," they'd murmur, a spinster by choice, no doubt. The weight of these pronouncements pressed down on Claire, a constant dull ache that mirrored the endless horizon. Her days were filled with the earnest faces of children, eager to learn, yet her own inner world was a landscape of quiet solitude, a stark contrast to the vibrant life she'd once imagined. The purpose she'd sought, the deep resonant meaning that eluded her, seemed as distant as the snow-capped peaks that ringed the valley. It was into this silent struggle, this life of measured routine and unspoken longing, that an unexpected force was about to descend, challenging the very foundations of her perceived destiny. The stillness of Deadwood Ridge was a deceptive calm, a fragile peace that masked the profound internal landscape of its inhabitants. Claire, in her quiet dedication, poured her energy into the small, sun-drenched schoolhouse, a sanctuary from the harsh realities outside. Yet, even within these walls, the undercurrent of her own unmet desires pulsed, a silent counterpoint to the children's laughter. She taught them to read, to write, to dream beyond the dusty confines of their world. But in doing so, she often found herself confronting the unspoken question of her own unfulfilled life. The whispers of the town followed her like shadows, reinforcing the narrative that her time for love, for family, had long since passed. The ache of loneliness was a familiar ache, one she had learned to carry with a quiet stoicism, believing it was the inevitable companion of a woman who had prioritized her education and independence. The vastness of Montana mirrored the vastness of her own internal space, a space she had come to accept as permanently empty. The hope for a profound connection, for a life interwoven with another's, had receded, replaced by a quiet resignation. She believed with a certainty that was both comforting and heartbreaking that her purpose lay solely in nurturing the futures of these young minds, a noble path, yet one that left a void in her own heart. It was during the first week, amidst the familiar rhythm of lessons and the scent of chalk dust, that the ordinary fabric of Claire's existence began to fray. A figure emerged from the vastness, a silhouette against the setting sun, astride a horse as white as a mountain peak. He was a man of immense stature, his presence commanding yet imbued with a disarming calm. His arms, corded with the strength of years of labor, spoke of a life lived in direct communion with the earth. When he entered the schoolhouse, not to collect a child, but with an unexpected purpose, his gaze, steady and piercing, met Claire's. In that moment, a silent acknowledgement passed between them, a recognition that transcended the casual observation of a stranger. His words, delivered with a quiet gravity that cut through the room's ambient sounds, were not a question, but a statement of profound insight. "You teach well," he declared, his voice a low rumble, "but there is sadness in your eyes." This was not the judgment of the townsfolk. It was an observation that seemed to penetrate the carefully constructed facade Claire had maintained for years. It was the first true glimpse of her inner world offered by another, and it landed with the force of an unexpected revelation, hinting at a possibility she had long since buried. The man, Bo Carter, was a man of the land, a widower whose life had been shaped by the solitary rhythm of ranching. He was a man of few words, his communication often conveyed through actions rather than pronouncements. The townsfolk saw him as a stoic, a man who carried his burdens in silence, his strength a testament to his resilience. He was a farmer, a man whose hands were calloused from working the soil, whose connection to the earth was as fundamental as his own heartbeat. His existence was a quiet testament to a life lived with purpose, yet the absence of a family, of children, was a silent void that seemed to echo in the vastness of his homestead. He moved through the world with a quiet dignity, his presence a grounding force in the often turbulent lives of those around him. He was not a man who sought attention, but his inherent strength and unwavering resolve drew the notice of those who understood the quiet power of a life lived with integrity. His interactions were measured, his gestures deliberate, each one carrying a weight of unspoken meaning. He was a figure of quiet strength, a man whose actions spoke louder than any words, and whose gaze, when it fell upon Claire, held a depth that suggested a profound, unarticulated understanding. The weeks that followed Bo Carter's observation were marked by a subtle yet profound shift in the atmosphere of Deadwood Ridge. His presence, once a fleeting image against the horizon, became a recurring, grounding element in Claire's life. Every Friday, without fail, he would appear, not with fanfare or expectation, but with a quiet offering that spoke volumes. A sack of potatoes, freshly dug from his fields, their earthy scent a testament to the land's bounty. A pile of corded firewood, split with precision, a promise of warmth against the coming chill. Sometimes it was a simple bouquet of wildflowers, their delicate colors a stark contrast to the rugged landscape, their ephemeral beauty a gentle acknowledgement of a deeper sentiment. His offerings were not grand gestures, but consistent acts of care, each one a silent declaration of his burgeoning attention. He did not seek to impress, but to provide, to support, to demonstrate through tangible means the quiet cultivation of his regard. These weekly appearances became small anchors in Claire's solitary existence, moments that chipped away at the walls she had built around her heart, introducing a warmth that had long been absent. One afternoon, as the schoolhouse buzzed with the energy of young minds, Bo stood at the threshold, his gaze lingering not on the children's lessons but on Claire herself. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the room, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, and in that quiet, luminous space he spoke. His voice, usually a low murmur, carried a new resonance, a deliberate intent that drew Claire's full attention. He spoke of his desire for a wife, a partner to share the quiet solitude of his ranch, but his words were not a casual proposition. They were a carefully considered statement of intent, a declaration of a specific need, a yearning for a particular kind of companionship. He looked directly at Claire, his calm eyes holding hers, and then he delivered a statement that both startled and profoundly moved her. "I want you," he stated, his voice firm, devoid of artifice. He continued, his words painting a picture of a future she had long since ceased to imagine, a future filled with the echoes of family, of children. "And you deserve sons with broad shoulders and good souls." The implication was staggering, a direct challenge to the narrative of her own perceived obsolescence, a vision of a life brimming with the very purpose she had begun to believe was beyond her reach. The quiet pronouncement from Bo Carter sent ripples through the insular community of Deadwood Ridge. The townsfolk, always quick to observe and to comment, found themselves with a new subject for their hushed conversations. How could this solitary, taciturn rancher, a man who had weathered his own share of loss, be interested in Claire Holloway, the teacher who had arrived with little more than her books and a quiet air of resignation? For 2 decades, she had navigated the currents of small-town life as an outsider, a woman whose age and unmarried status had rendered her virtually invisible in the intricate dance of courtship and marriage. Now, the giant of Deadwood Ridge, a man of immense presence and unwavering resolve, was publicly acknowledging her, singling her out from the crowd. The whispers grew louder, tinged with a mixture of disbelief and speculation. It was a pairing that defied conventional expectations, a quiet man of the land and a woman who had seemingly accepted a life of solitary purpose. Yet beneath the surface of their gossip, a different narrative was beginning to form, one of quiet devotion and unexpected connection, a testament to the fact that true worth often lay hidden beneath layers of societal judgment. The whispers of the town, though persistent, began to recede into the background as Bo Carter's intentions became more than mere words. He embarked on a quiet, determined project, a testament to his unspoken commitment. With painstaking effort, he began to construct a small ranch, a sanctuary carved out of the rugged landscape. The details of his labor were meticulously executed: the framing of walls, the careful placement of a sturdy roof, the creation of a welcoming porch that faced west, designed to capture the breathtaking spectacle of the setting sun. His actions were a silent testament to his deep-seated desire to build a future, a home not just for himself but for the woman who had captured his quiet attention. He never rushed the process, never pressured Claire for a definitive answer. Instead, he offered a gentle, ongoing invitation, a silent promise that the completion of the house would coincide with the readiness of her heart. "The house will be ready when your heart is," he would say, his words carrying the weight of patience and understanding, allowing Claire the space to navigate her own complex emotions and to consider the profound implications of his unwavering devotion. The fragile peace of Deadwood Ridge was shattered one starless night by the terrifying glow of an inferno. Flames, hungry and indiscriminate, consumed the small schoolhouse, the very heart of the community's educational life, and the sanctuary where Claire had found a measure of purpose. Before the alarm could even be sounded, before the panicked shouts could fully erupt, Bo Carter was there. He arrived not with the hurried steps of a man reacting to a crisis, but with the swift, decisive action of one who anticipated it. He moved with a quiet urgency, his massive frame a blur of motion as he directed the efforts to contain the blaze, his presence a steadying force amidst the chaos. He worked tirelessly, his hands steady, his focus unwavering, his sole objective to protect what mattered most. As the last embers died down, leaving behind a smoldering ruin, he found Claire, her face streaked with soot and tears, her body trembling with shock. He didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances. Instead, he simply reached out, his rough, calloused hand gently enclosing hers, his voice low and steady as he spoke words that resonated with profound truth. "I wasn't saving a building," he confessed, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that spoke of deep, unspoken emotion. "I was saving your world." In the aftermath of the fire, a new wave of insidious whispers began to circulate through Deadwood Ridge. A crudely written anonymous note appeared on Claire's desk, its words laced with malice and judgment. "A single teacher is not fit to raise children." The venom in those words struck Claire with the force of a physical blow, reopening old wounds and reawakening the deep-seated insecurities she had carried for years. She retreated into herself, her tears falling in the quiet solitude of her small living quarters, the weight of the anonymous accusation threatening to crush her spirit. But Bo Carter, ever attuned to the subtle shifts in Claire's demeanor, found the note. He didn't dismiss it, nor did he allow its poison to fester. Instead, with a quiet, deliberate strength that mirrored his own character, he walked to the center of the town square, the heart of Deadwood Ridge. There, in full view of the community, he held up the crumpled paper, his expression unreadable. Then, with a decisive movement, he tore it into 1,000 pieces, letting them scatter in the wind. His voice carrying across the hushed square was a clear, unwavering declaration. "She will raise my children," he proclaimed, his gaze sweeping across the assembled townsfolk, "and you will all bear witness." The grand opening of the rebuilt schoolhouse was a day of quiet celebration, a testament to the resilience of Deadwood Ridge and the unwavering spirit of its people. The children's laughter echoed through the newly constructed walls, a vibrant sound that filled the space with life and hope. As the day drew to a close and the last of the students had departed, Bo approached Claire, his hands rough and strong as he presented her with a simple, leather-bound notebook. It was a gesture of profound significance, a silent offering of a shared future. Inside, the pages were nearly empty, save for a single carefully penned sentence that held the weight of a promise, the tenderness of a dream. "If you accept this, this will be the name of our first son." Claire's breath hitched in her throat as she read the words, her heart constricting with an emotion so potent it threatened to overwhelm her. For the name inscribed within the notebook was not just a name, it was the name of her father, a man she had loved and lost, a man whose memory she had cherished in the quiet corners of her heart. In that moment, the carefully constructed walls around her emotions crumbled, and tears, not of sadness but of profound, overwhelming love and acceptance, streamed down her face, a silent testament to the journey that had brought them to this sacred threshold. Years have since passed, weaving themselves into the tapestry of life on Deadwood Ridge. The schoolhouse, once a symbol of loss, now stands as a beacon of enduring hope, its walls filled with the bright energy of new generations. The children who once looked to Claire with innocent curiosity now call Bo Mr. Carter, the man who builds everything, a simple acknowledgement of his tangible contributions to their community. But Claire knows a deeper truth, a truth etched, not in wood and stone, but in the quiet resilience of her own spirit. Bo Carter, the man of few words and immense strength, had not merely rebuilt a school. He had meticulously, patiently, and with an unwavering love, rebuilt the woman she had believed was lost forever. He had seen past the societal judgments, past the quiet resignation, to the core of her being, recognizing the strength and the capacity for love that lay dormant within her. And their children, the broad-shouldered sons with good souls he had promised, were living testaments to that love, their presence a constant reminder of the profound and transformative power of a connection forged not in grand pronouncements, but in quiet acts of enduring care, a love that had found its purpose in the very heart of a lonely teacher. The legacy of Bo Carter and Claire Holloway is woven into the very fabric of Deadwood Ridge, a quiet testament to a love that bloomed in the unlikeliest of soil. Their story, whispered around hearths and shared across generations, speaks of a profound truth. That purpose can be found not in grand pronouncements, but in the quiet, consistent gestures of a heart that truly sees another. It reminds us that strength is not always loud, and that true love often arrives not with fanfare, but with a steady hand, a patient gaze, and a willingness to build a future, one careful step at a time. The tale of the giant cowboy and the lonely teacher is a beacon of hope, a gentle reminder that even in the vast, often unforgiving landscapes of life, connection is possible, and the deepest forms of love are often found in the quiet spaces where vulnerability is met with unwavering devotion. It is a story that resonates with the enduring belief that the truest destinies are often revealed not by seeking, but by being found, by a gentle hand reaching out across the distance, offering not just a house, but a home for the heart. The subtle shift in Claire's internal landscape, catalyzed by Bo's unwavering support, manifested as a quiet blossoming of self-assurance. It wasn't a sudden transformation, but a gradual unfurling, like a shy bloom finally turning towards the sun. The sting of the anonymous letter, once a source of profound pain, began to lose its potency, its accusatory tone overshadowed by the quiet strength of Bo's public defense. Consider how this newfound inner fortitude impacted her daily interactions. No longer did she flinch at the passing glances of the townsfolk. Instead, she met them with a steady, unwavering gaze, her posture subtly altered, conveying a silent confidence that had been absent before. This internal recalibration allowed her to approach her teaching with a renewed vigor, her lessons imbued with a deeper sense of conviction. She found herself more willing to engage with the children's burgeoning curiosity, not just as an instructor, but as a mentor who understood the profound impact of encouragement and belief. Furthermore, this burgeoning self-possession extended to her personal life. The silence of her evenings, once filled with a pervasive loneliness, began to transform into moments of quiet contemplation, a space where she could process the profound shifts occurring within her, appreciating the subtle, yet significant ways Bo's presence had reshaped her perception of herself and her place in the world. Building on this nascent confidence, Claire discovered a surprising capacity for resilience in the face of lingering societal skepticism. While Bo's public dismantling of the anonymous accusation had silenced much of the overt criticism, the undercurrent of doubt remained, a subtle resistance to the unconventional union. Now, however, Claire possessed a different kind of armor, one forged not in defiance but in the quiet certainty of her own worth. She began to approach interactions with a newfound equanimity, recognizing that the opinions of others, while once a source of deep anxiety, no longer held the power to define her reality. For instance, when a particularly pointed remark was made about her suitability as a mother, rather than retreating into hurt, she responded with a calm, measured explanation of her growing understanding of child-rearing, drawing on her experiences in the classroom and her observations of Beau's gentle interactions with his niece. This approach, rooted in quiet conviction rather than defensive anger, often disarmed her critics, subtly shifting their perspectives by demonstrating her competence and her deep commitment to the future she was building. Consequently, her ability to navigate these social complexities with grace and fortitude became a testament to her internal growth, showcasing a profound evolution beyond her initial arrival in Deadwood Ridge. Another crucial layer to Claire's developing selfhood was her capacity to integrate her past experiences with her evolving present. The memory of her father, invoked by the naming of their future son, became not a source of sorrow, but a wellspring of quiet strength and continuity. She began to actively recall his teachings, his values, and the unwavering support he had offered her, allowing these memories to inform her decisions and her approach to building her own family. This wasn't about clinging to the past, but about drawing upon its wisdom to enrich her future. For instance, she remembered her father's emphasis on patience in all endeavors, a quality she now saw reflected in Beau's steady courtship. She recalled his belief in the power of clear communication, a principle she was now applying in her own interactions, ensuring that misunderstandings were addressed promptly and honestly. This integration allowed her to see her impending marriage, not as an abandonment of her past self, but as a natural, organic progression, a weaving together of cherished memories and hopeful aspirations into a new, richer tapestry of life. This process of internal synthesis was crucial, allowing her to embrace the future with a grounded sense of self, honoring the foundations of her past while confidently stepping into new territory. The integration of Claire's past, particularly the profound influence of her father, into her burgeoning future with Beau, fostered a unique sense of grounded optimism. This wasn't a naive hope, but a deeply rooted belief in the enduring power of familial bonds and supportive relationships. Consider how this manifested in her approach to building their shared life. Instead of solely focusing on the external construction of their ranch, Claire began to actively cultivate the internal architecture of their home, emphasizing traditions and shared rituals that honored her father's legacy. For instance, she started a practice of reading aloud from her father's worn copy of classic literature every evening, creating a quiet space for reflection and shared understanding. This ritual served not only as a personal connection to her past, but also as a way to instill a love for learning and thoughtful discourse in the children, mirroring the values her father had instilled in her. Consequently, the ranch became more than just a physical dwelling. It evolved into a living embodiment of shared history and future aspirations, a place where the wisdom of the past actively informed the present. Furthermore, Claire's evolving understanding of resilience began to manifest in her interactions with the community's more resistant elements. While Beau's public support had been a powerful shield, Claire recognized that true integration required more than just external validation. She started to actively seek out opportunities to bridge the lingering divides, not by confronting dissent directly, but by subtly demonstrating the positive outcomes of her partnership with Beau. For example, when a particularly skeptical elder expressed concerns about her ability to manage the household finances, Claire, rather than becoming defensive, invited the elder to review the meticulous household accounts she had meticulously organized, showcasing a clear and responsible approach to their shared resources. This quiet demonstration of competence and transparency, rooted in her father's own principles of fiscal prudence, gradually began to shift perceptions, fostering a sense of trust and mutual respect where skepticism had previously prevailed. Thus, her personal growth translated into a tangible impact on the community's evolving dynamics. Another crucial layer to Claire's personal development involved her growing ability to articulate her evolving needs and desires within the partnership. Previously, her tendency had been to internalize her feelings, believing self-sufficiency was the only path. However, witnessing Beau's consistent, quiet demonstrations of care and drawing strength from her father's example of open communication within his own marriage, Claire began to express her own evolving emotional landscape more openly. This wasn't about demanding attention, but about fostering a deeper, more reciprocal understanding. For instance, she realized that while Beau was a man of action, he also appreciated knowing the emotional impact of his gestures. After he spent days building a sturdy fence to protect their small garden from wandering livestock, Claire expressed not just gratitude for the fence itself, but how his thoughtfulness made her feel truly seen and cherished, a sentiment that visibly resonated with Beau, encouraging further emotional reciprocity. This willingness to voice her inner world, a departure from her earlier reticence, significantly deepened their bond, creating a more robust foundation for their shared future. Moreover, Claire's understanding of purpose began to encompass a broader, more community-oriented perspective. Her initial mission as a teacher had been focused on the children, but as her relationship with Beau deepened, she recognized how their shared life and growing influence could extend beyond their immediate family. Inspired by her father's own community involvement, she started to apply her organizational skills and burgeoning confidence to initiatives that benefited Deadwood Ridge as a whole. For example, she noticed the lack of a central gathering place for community events beyond the schoolhouse, which was often booked. Drawing on her father's experience in organizing local initiatives, Claire proposed and helped establish a small community hall, using her organizational prowess to secure donations and coordinate volunteer efforts. This endeavor allowed her to channel her innate desire to nurture and build into a larger, more impactful contribution, demonstrating that her purpose had indeed expanded, encompassing not just her own future, but the collective well-being of the community. Claire's journey toward embracing her role as a future mother, informed by her father's enduring legacy, fostered a profound shift in her understanding of nurturing. This wasn't merely about physical care, but about cultivating a specific kind of emotional fortitude within her children. She began to actively consider how to impart her father's ingrained sense of integrity, a quality he demonstrated through unwavering honesty even when it was difficult. Now, consider how this applies. When you face a situation where a child's well-being might be better served by a difficult truth rather than a gentle evasion. Claire, reflecting on her father's approach to a childhood transgression she'd committed, remembered his calm, direct explanation of consequences, devoid of harshness but firm in its clarity. She resolved to adopt a similar method, preparing to address her children's inevitable mistakes, not with punishment, but with reasoned discussion, fostering an environment where accountability was understood as a cornerstone of character, a direct inheritance from her father's own unwavering moral compass. Building upon this foundation of integrity, Claire also started to contemplate the practical application of her father's resourcefulness in their new life together. His ability to mend, to repurpose, and to find solutions with limited means was legendary in her childhood memories. She recognized that the burgeoning ranch, while a symbol of hope, would also present numerous challenges requiring innovative thinking. Consequently, she began to actively seek out and preserve her father's tools and instructional journals, not just as sentimental keepsakes, but as practical guides for their future. For instance, she recalled a specific journal entry detailing how her father had devised a rudimentary irrigation system using repurposed barrels and hand-dug channels, a technique that might prove invaluable for their own crops during dry spells. This proactive approach to integrating her father's practical wisdom into their shared future underscored her commitment to building a life grounded in self-sufficiency and ingenuity, lessons learned firsthand from a man who embodied them. However, this embrace of her father's legacy also necessitated a reconciliation with certain aspects of her past independence. For years, Claire had prided herself on her self-reliance, a necessary shield in her solitary journey. Now, as she prepared to co-create a life with Beau, she understood that true partnership involved a delicate balance between autonomy and interdependence. This realization prompted a subtle recalibration of her mindset, moving from a position of solely providing for herself to one of actively receiving and contributing within a shared framework. Another crucial layer is how she began to consciously practice vulnerability, a concept previously foreign to her self-sufficient nature. She recognized that her father, while strong, had also relied on his wife's emotional support, a dynamic she was now prepared to embrace. This involved sharing not just her successes, but also her anxieties and uncertainties with Bo, allowing him to offer comfort and practical solutions, thereby strengthening their mutual reliance and deepening their emotional connection. A departure from her prior solitary approach to problem-solving. Furthermore, Claire's understanding of her father's influence began to extend into the realm of community engagement, a facet of his life she had previously observed from a distance. His quiet commitment to the welfare of his neighbors, often demonstrated through anonymous acts of kindness, now served as a potent example for her own burgeoning role within Deadwood Ridge. She started to consider how her own unique skills and experiences, honed through years of solitary dedication, could be leveraged to benefit the wider community, echoing her father's selfless approach. For instance, she noticed the nascent stages of a local library initiative, a project that had languished due to a lack of organized leadership. Drawing inspiration from her father's consistent involvement in town council meetings, Claire decided to volunteer her organizational talents, seeing it as an opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the collective good, a direct application of the values her father had so carefully instilled in her, moving beyond her initial focus on individual purpose to embrace a broader sense of communal responsibility. Reflecting on this journey thus far, we can perceive the intricate threads of Claire's transformation beginning to weave themselves into a singular, compelling narrative. The quiet strength that initially defined her has now been tempered by an active engagement with life's possibilities, a subtle yet profound shift from passive acceptance to deliberate creation. The solitude that once felt like an insurmountable barrier has receded, replaced by a burgeoning sense of connection, not only to Bo but to the very landscape that once seemed so alienating. This evolving inner world, nurtured by consistent acts of care and unwavering support, has begun to reshape her outward perception, allowing her to meet the world with a renewed sense of purpose and a quiet confidence that resonates from within. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, illuminated by the cumulative effect of these deeply personal discoveries. The initial hesitations and quiet doubts that once clouded Claire's perspective have, like mist burned off by the morning sun, begun to dissipate, revealing a landscape of self-awareness and emotional clarity. The lessons learned, absorbed not through grand pronouncements but through the quiet rhythm of daily life and the steady presence of a devoted partner, have coalesced into a profound understanding of her own capacity for love, resilience, and belonging. This intricate tapestry of experience, woven with threads of courage and gentle acceptance, now prepares the way for a final appreciation of how deeply interwoven the elements of life truly are. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider how these individual moments of growth, like carefully placed stones, have begun to form a stable and meaningful path. The external challenges, once perceived as insurmountable obstacles, have been transmuted into catalysts for an inner strength that now radiates outward. The quiet wisdom gained, the courage unearthed, and the profound understanding of connection have all converged, creating a powerful anticipation for the ultimate realization of a life richly lived. This convergence suggests a culmination not of a single event, but of a sustained organic unfolding, leading towards a profound and resonant understanding of what it truly means to be whole. The journey has been one of quiet revelation, each step building upon the last, leading us towards a final, luminous understanding of purpose and belonging. The final act of Claire Holloway's story is not an ending, but a profound unfolding, a testament to the quiet power of human connection and the enduring resilience of the spirit. The vast untamed beauty of Deadwood Ridge, once a symbol of her isolation, had become the canvas upon which a life of purpose and belonging was painted, stroke by deliberate stroke. Bo Carter, the giant cowboy whose words had first pierced her, carefully constructed solitude, had offered more than just companionship. He had offered a mirror, reflecting back to Claire the strength and capacity for love that she herself had long since forgotten. His consistent care, expressed not in grand pronouncements but in the steady rhythm of his actions, the firewood delivered, the ranch built, the silent, unwavering presence, had been the gentle, persistent force that eroded the walls of her loneliness, allowing the seeds of hope to finally take root. Claire's journey from a solitary teacher, resigned to a life of quiet observation, to a woman embracing a future filled with the promise of family and community, is a powerful illustration of how purpose is often found not by seeking it in distant horizons, but by recognizing its quiet presence in the immediate, in the shared moments of vulnerability and trust. The whispers of the townsfolk, once a source of shame and doubt, had faded into the background, their judgments rendered irrelevant by the undeniable truth of Claire's own unfolding happiness. Her father's legacy, once a cherished memory, had become a living, breathing guide, his integrity and resourcefulness woven into the very fabric of her new life, providing a grounding wisdom that informed her every decision. The naming of their future son, a deeply personal affirmation, symbolized the seamless integration of her past and present, a testament to the enduring strength of familial bonds that transcend time and circumstance. The true essence of Claire's transformation lies not in the external achievements, though the rebuilt schoolhouse and the burgeoning ranch are undeniable symbols of their shared future. It resides, rather, in the internal recalibration of her spirit. She learned that resilience is not about the absence of fear or doubt, but about the courage to move forward in their presence, guided by an unwavering belief in the possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Her capacity for vulnerability, once a perceived weakness, proved to be her greatest strength, allowing for a deeper, more authentic connection with Bo, a bond forged in mutual understanding and shared emotional landscapes. This willingness to be seen, truly seen, was the final key that unlocked the profound sense of belonging she had so long sought, proving that purpose is often found in the act of allowing oneself to be loved, and in turn, to love unconditionally. The true practice begins now, not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet, consistent cultivation of these truths, a testament to the enduring power of a life lived with an open heart.